This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions to get through, so let's just get started. We're going to start from a question from Joshua, who says, I've been rewatching the games from last year, but I noticed the tackling was awful towards the end of the year. Is that a concern going into this new year with the new coordinator, but relatively the same personnel? It wasn't a matter of being in position. It was just terrible form. Like everybody was trying to go for a hit stick rather than wrapping up. Here's the thing about tackling. Anybody who could play in the NFL can tackle, right? The issue usually isn't the form. The issue usually isn't anywhere where it related to the, well, it's somewhat related to the defensive coordinator, but usually the issue is tackling requires energy. Energy requires a source. If your team sucks, if your defense sucks, if every time you go out there, you know you're one of the worst units in the league, you are going to be a poor tackler. Because eventually the energy, the effort to make the tackle won't be there. And that's what I'm saying. Tackles are, well, being a good tackler is about putting in the right effort. And when the defense is as bad as they were last year and it goes on for as long as it did, and then you're out the playoffs, that effort's just going to die. And you're just going to suck at tackling. So I don't know if that's something to be concerned about. I would say, hey, look, if they execute well, they'll have energy. If they have energy, they'll have high effort and they will make better tackles. If they don't execute well, they won't have energy, there won't be effort, and they won't tackle well. The ability or the consistency of missed tackles is more of a symptom than it is the source of a problem for a defense. And usually the symptom of the problem that the symptom sprouts from is that you're not executing well on defense to begin with. And when the execution's down, the energy's down, the effort's down, the tackling's going to suck. I hope that makes sense. But thank you for the question. Let's move on to the next one from Ryan. Ryan says, hey, Q, I've been hearing a lot about getting another defensive tackle. On a similar note, how often do you think Za'Darius Smith will play DT, Obo, and Miles on the edges if we don't bring in a defensive tackle? They're going to move guys around. There's going to be different packages. It's not linear, right? Like, I think we look at a lot of these positions in football the same way you would look at them in a video game, right? Where you put your starters in, the first two start on each position, and that's kind of it for who plays. In real life, in real football, these things are dictated by packages. Some packages are going to have Miles, Obo, and Za'Darius all on the same side, with maybe Alex Wright put at power end on the opposite side with a huge gap in the middle, right? That's called offset. They might do that. They might have 5 guys on the defensive line. They might have 3. It doesn't matter if they get another defensive tackle because they're still going to run base and they need another defensive tackle to run base. That doesn't affect how often that you put them in, because you're not going to put Miles, Obo, Za'Darius Smith all in at the same time in a base package, right? If you're just running base 4-3, that's not the best way to use them. You'll probably use them in an offset package. You'll probably use them in a bunch of different ways like that. So that's how it'll be used. That's how it would work. And that's how that will go on. Oh, fuck. I forgot to hit the button. All right, this next question comes from Ryan, who says, hey, Q, been hearing a lot about defensive tackle or getting another defensive tackle. On a similar note, how often do you think Za'Darius will play defensive tackle and Obo and Miles will be on the edges if we don't bring in a defensive tackle? I think you're under the misconception that those two things are related. They're not. If the Browns bring in another defensive tackle, that's not really going to affect the amount of times that you can put those 3 out there. I think a lot of people tend to look at the position or defensive tackle, especially or along the line of scrimmage, the same way they look at offensive line, where like there's a starter for every position and nobody rotates out. But that's just not how it works. Everything's a rotation. Everything's about packages. And the Browns are going to have packages where Miles, Za'Darius, and Obo are offset on one side, kind of bunched together in a 3-man grouping. And then you'll have all the way on the other side, like an Alex Wright or somebody, just somebody long and tall that'll hold down the other edge spot. So there's going to be multiple different packages. You're never really going to see Za'Darius play defensive tackle in a base set. Like, that's just not a wise way to use him. If they're running base, they're going to need 2 true defensive tackles. So they still need somebody to sign next to Dalvin Tomlinson. So it wouldn't affect them. That defensive tackle that they would sign, whoever it be, if they start, that player's not affecting any other package that includes Miles, like those 3 guys being used in one. So they're just not related. It doesn't matter if they bring in somebody or if they don't. It really doesn't change anything. The next question comes from Dust Blue, who says, "Hey Q, do you think the passing and running plays ratio going into the season, 11 personnel and play action, are going to be the main things going into the season?" I mean, like, yeah, if you're running more 11, it depends on what you define as play action. Like, you're going to do some ball fakes here or there, but like the hard play action stuff, that's probably going to be a little reduced, but you're still going to see it, right? This offense is still going to have the same DNA from last year. It's just going to incorporate a lot more of what Deshaun has done well throughout his career. It's not going to look like a completely different offense. Miguel says, "Hey Q, which one did I choose for the field designs? Greetings in El Paso. I know it's hot down there. Please stay cool the best you can." I chose the stripe, I think. I want the stripe or the helmet. I'm done with the gimmicky half field logo stuff. We did it last year with the elf. I don't want to put the dog there. Let's just do the stripe or the helmet. I know people are going to mention you should do like a Jim Brown tribute. If they can get that done, that'd be cool too. But something more traditional. We're a traditional franchise. Let's just be traditional. Let's just I don't see what the problem is, right? We don't traditionally have the elf at midfield. We don't traditionally put the dog in midfield. We traditionally slap a helmet or a helmet stripe on it. That's our identity. I think it's fine. I don't think we need to jazz it up. You know what I mean? You don't see Green Bay out here putting like a lesser known mascot at midfield just to like spice it up a little bit. Club Sandwich Guy says, "Howdy Q, do you believe there's any chance that Tillman could sneak into the wide receiver 3 spot above DPJ, leaving the writing on the wall before contract talks even start? I know it's only been one preseason game, but he looked very solid and quick on his routes. Love DPJ, but okay. Let's pump the brakes. Let's slow down a little bit here. DPJ is a legitimate NFL wide receiver. And the Browns aren't, unless like DPJ gets hurt or DPJ plays terrible to start, then maybe you'll see Tillman come in there. But again, this goes back to the conversation I had with defensive tackle. We seem to have this idea that multiple guys in a position group cannot coexist when that's just not true, right? Tillman and DPJ will probably be on the field at the same time. I don't think it takes sacrificing somebody else to get Tillman some snaps. There will be packages where Tillman gets some love from the offensive coordinator, right? There will be some end zone stuff. There'll probably be some midfield stuff. If he plays well, he might get more and more spots, but that's not going to come at the expense of Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's more likely that it comes at the expense of like a David Bell or somebody like that. So no, I don't think that it does anything for DPJ's contract status or anything like that. I think he's in position to do what he needs to do. And if he does what he needs to do, he'll be fine. My man Gagan Singh says, what's the offense you would probably most compare the upcoming 2023 Browns offense would look like an Andy Reid West Coast scheme? The pass first and run 2022 Eagles? It's not going to be that different, y'all. It's going to look like some of the stuff Deshaun Watson has done in the past. It's going to look like some of the stuff that Kevin Stefanski has done in the past. It's going to be a combination of those two offenses kind of melded to what they need. It's probably going to be less timing oriented. It's going to be less about being on time and more about reading the field and giving him time to do the things that make him special. It's going to look like how Deshaun Watson has played football before. It's not going to be radically different. The next question comes from KR Thunder, who says, after the preseason game and Jim Schwartz's press conference, when he plainly announced the defense isn't there yet, how would you measure their progress? I think they're fine. Again, we can't take everything we hear from press conferences in these camp settings at face value. What Jim Schwartz is doing is kind of like lowering the expectations within the fan base so he can be like, hey, we're still a work in progress. Give these guys some grace, because right now I do think the expectations were too high, right? This is part of the reason why I'm like, hey, look, there's going to be some mistakes made. There's going to be some bad habits on defense. We shouldn't expect that this is going to be like a top 5 defense off rip. It's just not going to be that. They were too bad last year to make that leap. And you can't just blame that all on Joe Woods. Like, that was at some point some of the players' fault. The next question comes from Brad Allen, who says, what are the chances the Browns sign a veteran defensive tackle before the season? Do you think they wait until they get more game tape on Ika? No, it ain't about Ika. It ain't about Ika. Ika plays nose tackle. Like, if they're using him like they use him in the preseason game, it ain't about Ika. Ika's playing nose. So he's going to be in that rotation no matter what. There's nobody there to challenge him. The issue and who they need to watch is Maurice Hurst and Jordan Elliott. If those two don't look like they're going to be up to task to really contribute in a serious way, now I don't know what else they're going to do. They got to get somebody else, right? Because Ika's not going to be playing a true 3-tech role. They don't seem to want to put Alex Wright in there at a full-time 3-tech role. So it's up to those two. If those two perform the next couple of games, they'll probably not have to sign a vet. But, we'll see how far that goes. Pee Wee Burn Pizza says, do you think the NFL would ever put the Super Bowl on pay-per-view? It would be not profitable. The reason the NFL makes money isn't because they charge money to get to the Super Bowl. The NFL makes money off advertisers. It is way more lucrative for NFL games not to be under a paywall and for advertisers to kind of subsidize that cost. It's way more profitable for the league, right? They're not going to, let's say the league does put the Super Bowl on pay-per-view for whatever dumb reason. It wouldn't make sense financially. Let's say they did, right? And even if they put it on pay-per-view and sold advertising spots, it still wouldn't make money. Or as much money as it does now. Because let's say you get like 1 million pay-per-view buys or something crazy like that, right? You break the pay-per-view record. Well, you're selling advertisers ads for only 1 million viewers now. Instead of selling them ads for 50 million viewers. They make, in like 2 commercial breaks during the Super Bowl, what it would make if they put this whole thing on pay-per-view and put ads on it. That's how lucrative the ad money is for the Super Bowl. It will never happen. It's not a smart business move. It wouldn't make anybody more money. They would never put the Super Bowl on pay-per-view. Like, I know people are like putting that out there like, oh, the NFL's greedy. They would do this. The NFL is greedy. And that's exactly why they would never do that, because that wouldn't make more money. You would just have to pay up front, but they would make less money. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't make as much money. So no, they would never do that. But that's it for this week's Q&A. You guys have a great day. Have an even better night.